Welcome
Hey,
back.
Happy New Year.
Would you like to take a look at it first, or you want to start walking through it?
We could go through it.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So I'll get started. We have made some changes, and I know we've TA'd a lot of things, so I think that's moving the right direction. And so on the first page, 14.1, we agree with your language there. I think it's actually a lot better. It just kind of sums it up where it's just, stick to the statute and a triggering event. The thing that we changed was, and pay all sums as soon as possible, only because the 30 days, we weren't sure if that was, if that's possible. It hasn't happened, so I don't know, if 30 days of something happening, what if something's still happening? I don't know. I don't know enough about that.
Okay.
To know if that is possible. I mean, there's no reason that we would ever withhold something, but I didn't want to say 30 days in the event that, I don't know, maybe something takes longer than that.
Okay.
So-
If you want to propose a longer period of time, that's fine. But as soon as possible, I think is just a little vague.
So the last one said within a year.
Right.
I mean, you want to stick to that?
I'll talk to them about it.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, but, yeah, we'll just look at you have it broken up, so I like to look at the whole article.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. On funeral expenses, let's see, we're on the second page there. We accept that your proposal, basically it's striking 4.2 and replacing it with 14.3. And there's no changes to 14.3. Okay? District accepts your changes, and we just corrected a typo with an S at the end. So for 14.3, which was 14.4. On the new 14.4, the district does reject that proposal. We're just sticking to statute on this one. That's all we've got.
Okay. I know we do feel strongly about 14.4. Most other law enforcement agencies provide for funeral expenses, so we're just providing for it if the statute does not, so.
Yeah, I understand. On 16.2, we agree to your proposal of the 600.
Yeah, I think that we already agreed to the amounts. You guys just wanted to check the language, I guess, for 16.5 and 16.6.
I don't think we did agree to it, but we do. So, we're good with that. We made some changes, though, on 16.5 because they contradicted each other. They weren't right. It says in one payment on 16.5, it says we'll make it in one payment, which is inclusive of this amount on 16.2. But in 16.2, it talks about paying it in payable in increments, which was now changed to $300 increments. So on these two dates, October 31st and June 30th. So we went with that. So in 16.5, what we did is change it to remove that language. We added the up to $500 so that, because I remember in the last session we talked about if it didn't total $500, people were getting denied. So as a way to make sure that that isn't happening. Do you recall what I'm saying there? Okay. And then just cut it at July 1, because these are basically two different payments. Does that make sense?
Well, last time, I think that you guys, they haven't been paying it as one, but then they've been having issues getting the second half, right?
Well, I think
So-
that might be because it's confusing the way it was written. It was written in this one to say it's one payment, where it's written in this one to say it's it was 3 payments, right?
Yeah, so you want to keep the 2 increments for everyone and then just make this basically to match the receipts.
Yes.
Okay.
Which the
Okay,
fir-
this is a little different than your last offer, so I don't feel like we'll feel too strongly about this, but I'm gonna talk to him.
How is this
about-
it's
Because I
not,
think last time you guys offered a different amount, which was fine, because this is a little higher and you changed the wording for 16.5. But I think that we won't have a problem with doing the 2 for everyone and then just the receipts for 16.5. But I'm gonna talk to them about it just to make sure I'm on the same page with how it's been working procedurally. But I
Okay.
think that's fine, because I think that would solve the problem.
I think so too, and where it says the ESU, there's a 16.6 that says emergency services unit members will not be required to purchase or wear plain clothes items. That was discussed
Okay,
last
great,
session.
great.
On 17.1, there's really no change there. We're pretty firm on that. That's where we're at. So we haven't really made any changes to that section.
Okay, we haven't really made any changes either.
Yep. Okay. And then on 17.1,
Are you
We're-
on E now? Or,
C, 17.1C, sorry. They're pretty much the same. I think our language is the same. The only exception, or the only difference is where we say that'll be administered through the ERP system, which, technically how we manage it it's not that important that that's in contract language. I think it's however we manage it, whether it's on paper or an ERP, it's still managed by us.
I just have kind of a concern with it because there have been issues with the payroll and the comp time and stuff like that. So
And I-
that's kind of like a loaded phrase in there because I don't really know what that means.
And I don't know if it's necessarily a fault on you, it's the system that's not allowing it.
The
To,
ERP system,
so when you say ERP, you're talking about the,
it's a
Finance, it's a
PeopleSoft, our
program.
PeopleSoft
yeah,
application.
yeah. So, yes.
I think that if anything, that would remove like human error, right? Is more than just keeping it on notes or paperwork or something like that. It's how we manage our comp time for other employees.
It's just not matching up with we had some issues recently on the system, and I don't think it was any fault of the people running the program. It was just, it wasn't allowing it to work together. So the comp time wasn't coming out, it wasn't allowing the comp time to be added in there, and it was giving it straight time instead. It was just a couple of yeah.
This past week or so, it kind of came up that there's a question, and I know that this has been on a question that we're trying to straighten out so everybody kind of understands it. We had a guy that had put in for comp time,
Yes.
right, initially, and then at the end of the week, had worked some overtime, and he wanted to put in to convert that to comp, and he could not convert it because it was not part of the 40-hour, it got counted as straight time as opposed to comp. So they weren't able to transition that extra duty pay into comp time because it was not, it was accumulated within the 40-hour work week, or it was counted as part of his 40-hour work week. So by taking a day off at the beginning of the week, they're having trouble with the computation of the time going into the system, that time and a half question. As we're saying, they get the straight time for what they are considered as overtime pay because it's 40 hours has not been fulfilled yet. But the comp time is being charged at the front end, so the question is, does that count as their time or not? And I think that that's been an ongoing question.
Well, actually, I mean, this is new. I was not aware that
Okay.
there was an issue that came up this past week. And keep in mind that that's what we're trying to eliminate, is that there were some, by doing this manually, there have been, when it's been implemented, they're not always following district policies and procedures. And so that's why we want to put it in the system and have it then be implemented in the same way across all bargaining groups, and make sure that we're also complying with the Fair Labor Standards Act as well. And so now that this has been brought to my attention, we'll look into that to see if it,
I think it's still, that there's still a piece to this that is requiring manual entry. And I
that's
don't
what-
know that it's supposed to be requiring the manual entry that
should
it
not
is,
be
and
requiring
So I think that that's where we're.
And I think one of the glitches may be because we're all under different pay ranges and stuff. You got your 10-month employees, your 12-month employees, and I think the different days, like you have, your teachers may be under a different than your assistant principals, you know, so everybody's in a different thing, and
But-
ours is very unique to.
but not related to straight time being earned and what constitutes overtime at a certain time. That is consistent across all bargaining groups.
Even comp time, too?
Even comp time.
Okay.
Yes, it's all calculated in the same way. But now, keep in mind, school police was the only group that was being calculated outside of the system. So now we're putting that back in the system and making sure that we're actually just learning what, how it was being implemented manually might not be consistent, like I said, with district policy. So as these issues are coming up, because we did just put it into the ERP system, we are looking into each one, and we're making corrections as needed.
Okay.
But this should be, I believe, the last issue, because we were looking at different earn codes.
I don't know that I think it has, like Officer Lynch was saying, I think it has more to do with if you have this officer 10-month, officer 12-month, and say there's a day off for officer 10-month at the beginning of a week, and officer 12-month decides to take that day off, like puts in for the time off. If officer 10-month works a detail at the end of the week, they get paid time and a half, but the 12-month guy doesn't.
But that we have other employee groups that have
No,
10-month and
I think
12-month
that that's,
employees.
it's
and
just
so-
part of the learning curve as to how this all talks to each other and how it impacts everybody.
And we are explaining each one as we go through, and we are making corrections each time as well.
But also ultimately, none of this, the amounts and who's paid overtime should not change, whether you're doing it manually on a notebook or if you're doing it in the ERP.
And that's it, because that's why we were trying to figure out, maybe it was just because of the 10-month, 12-month, or different schedules, why it wasn't accepting it, and that's kind of what it's boiling down to, just not accepting the time.
Have you already begun using the ERP? That's what you're trying to use already?
Yes, we are.
Through this unit, for this unit?
We use it throughout the whole entire district for all employees.
No, but I'm saying, have you already started using it for the sworn? You
Yeah,
have?
right, because it never should have been done outside of the ERP system. All of our payroll should be calculated within the ERP system, and so that's why we had to actually go through and add in the different earn codes and whatnot for school police, because they weren't included in the calculation. But since it's new to me, please give me time to actually understand it and speak to my team, because this has not been brought to my attention.
And I don't know if it's actually an issue that needs to be corrected as opposed to explained as to what the actual issue is. So that's something that we need to kind of iron out. But I agree with you.
No
that-
matter where you
that
do
it's
it,
not
it should-
really, doesn't really have to do with this language. It has to do with what are we computing? It doesn't matter whether it's on paper or if it's in the system, it should be computed.
Maybe it's just being entered wrong. I mean, it could be just something that simple, but it's just not wasn't getting it right for this one individual we know about.
Right, yeah, so just, like I said, this is the first time I'm hearing of it, so if you, please give me time to look into it.
I don't have like a problem with you using that system, because I don't really even know much about it, but I just think if it's done correctly, it shouldn't even affect their benefits. So there really
Correct.
should be no like impact on their benefits. So I just don't even know if we need that language. Like, because if you use a certain computer system or something to execute the
Right.
contract, I don't care if that contract's being executed.
As long
So-
as the money's right, as long as
Exactly.
they're paid appropriately for the
So-
hours they work, that's
Yeah, but
all
I
that
do
matters.
know that
so.
there have been a lot of issues in the past month or two, even just with like the comp and the pay and stuff like that. So I'm all for fixing those if this is involved in all of that. But I don't know if you have like a specific policy that I haven't seen on the ERP system, but I don't think we even need this language in there, because as long as they're getting what is written in the contract, I don't really care how it's done, so.
Jermaine, that's what I was saying yesterday, right? Yeah, okay.
The only thing I want to add is there are certain rules that go with the ERP system that were not being followed the way that they were computing the comp before. So it is relevant so that everybody understands what those actual rules are and what we're trying to correct to make sure that we are calculating
Right,
everything
which is
correctly.
why I
The
kinda.
rules would be the same.
They're the
if on
same, they're the
paper.
same, but now,
Yes.
Right.
but because it was not being done appropriately before or consistently before, now you're seeing these changes and we're not changing anything, we're following what the policy says.
We're
So
correcting
the
what
way
the
the
contract
enterprise system works, it works district-wide the same way. So
What do you mean
we just
by
weren't plugging
rules?
in, like, so the way that you would put comp time in and what you get when you.
Like the formulas, like.
Yes, everything should be the same, but when they were doing it on paper, there really was no checks and balances. This way, it's kind of automated, so if somebody tries to put something in incorrectly, it's not going to allow it to do it, and that's where we're running into problems. But I will tell you also, one of the things that we've had issues with is timelines on people submitting for their comp time. If they submit it too late, the system will not recognize it for comp. It will give you your pay at time and a half if it's turned in late, but it's not going to give you the comp time. So we're
Well-
running into issues with that, too.
Are
If
you,
they-
you all are submitting it in any way then?
It's been addressed
It's like a
to
new-
tell
'cause
us to make
instead of
sure we
doing
put
it
it
with
in
papers,
correctly.
they do it through the online system? Is
No.
that all?
Mine was
No.
on time.
Not yet,
Mine was on time.
But that's the goal,
yes.
okay, okay. All right. I don't, like I said, I don't really want that reference in there, because if it's referencing some kind of policy or something, if I haven't seen it, then, but like I said, if they're getting their benefits that are laid out under the contract, I don't really care how it's done, so.
Right. Understood. We'll discuss that. In caucus, all right.
And our proposal's the same, we're still proposing, it is the status quo, I just want them to be able to carry it over to the next year, so. But I know you guys are probably, you said you're rejecting that, so.
Yes. Can you help me understand the benefit of that, of carrying it over, rather than getting paid out and then being able to?
Because they like
Earn-
some prefer comp time, and they
So-
want to carry it over.
Yeah, and probably the major thing is when we get to August, when we come back to school, we don't have any comp bank then. There's not enough time to build up comp bank. So people who don't want to lose their 250 hour or $250 quarterly, have nothing to work with. So when we come into the new year, we may not start working overtime until October 1st. So, and if we're doing it now based on pay on every 2 weeks or whenever we're supposed to submit it, then it's got to be, we won't have the ability to get that comp time.
Oh, you're not.
Understood.
Oh, I just turned it off too, man.
All right, on 17.1D, I think we're the same here with ours has in advance, and the request must be pre-approved for multiple day use. And I thought we agreed to that last session.
Oh, well, I mean, it's kind of the same thing. I mean, I don't really think either way it changes the meaning there, so, yeah, I don't really care on that one. You guys don't have an issue? No? Okay.
Okay. So 17.1E, we were, we haven't made any changes there. (17.1H), there's also, there's no change here. It's just we're saying we'll stick in accordance with the policy of paying it out.
Okay, and ours was the same as well.
Right. On 17.1K, you had asked, because this was something we said we already do, paid the balance of their unused comp time, so you asked for it, so we put it in.
Okay, I have that in my H. I think I may have merged them together. And that
Oh.
comment there is incorrect on mine anyway, so you can ignore that.
Wait, what's incorrect?
That comment there, carrying over the 54, I think that was from a prior proposal. So basically, this is the same proposal that we had last time. It's the same status quo, they can accumulate up to 60 hours. We did
I
their,
think we're on different items.
oh, well, you're on K, right?
Yes,
Yes, so I just said that I put that language in our H,
in H.
just upon separation or promotion.
Okay. We'll take a,
I didn't touch R 17.
Okay.
Compared to last time. The main change is we said to keep the 60 hours, but the main change is we just wanted to carry over. So that's, I think,
yeah, so ours is, it's just the carryover piece, right?
right.
That's where
That's
we're
the main.
not agreeing there, but that's where K just deals specifically with, because those are like two different things basically in H, where K specifically deals with leaving the unit, which is something you guys asked for.
Right, or getting promoted, which I think is how it worked in practice anyway.
It is.
Yeah, I have no problem putting that in a different section, but
Okay.
for some reason, it's there. Yeah, just that on its own.
All right, on 1711, I think we're in agreement on this. The piece last time we moved something to another section.
What is it?
I think
Oh,
something
okay.
about like a non-contract day work was like merged in with this one,
Extra duty.
Right.
Okay.
yeah. So I think we're in agreement on that.
Okay, if you covered extra duty
Somewhere
somewhere
else,
else, then,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah. All right, on 20, so,
And 17.12, I think you guys agreed to that.
I don't have that.
That's the cancellation.
Yeah,
I think we agreed to that already, didn't we? Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So on Article 20, on the assignments here, so talked with the team a little bit about this. We haven't made a lot of movement, but one thing we are willing to do is on the, should we agree on the sergeants becoming its own position in that language, we would agree to the detective being increased to 5,000. So, but we don't, we're hesitant to put that down until we know we can agree to the other, because we don't feel they should be the same rates,
So, okay, what are you trying to say about the sergeant being?
So the sergeant, we're pushing, for the, I think we're both in agreement, really, that we're trying to make it its own position. And when it does, if it does become its own position, then we'll go through what we're proposing on the salary piece, so it's more clear, I guess, on how you get to that amount. But should we go that direction with the sergeant piece, then we'd agree to the detective rate, the assignment pay for detective going to 5,000.
Okay, I guess I just have to understand what you're proposing
you-
for sergeant.
Right,
So you're
that's-
saying you
that's-
want.
right, that's coming
basically, you don't
next.
want them to be the same pay structure.
Correct.
You want the sergeant to be here, okay, so say this one 10%, this one 5%, I'm just throwing that out there, so they're not on the same.
So that they're not
pay
the
scale.
same,
Right, it
So
would
it's
be
not
the
a-
same job
yeah.
as sergeant, you just,
Detective, no.
no.
no, I'm saying sergeant, they would still do the same exact thing. We just
Correct.
want to have a
Correct.
Yeah,
promotional process,
yeah.
a separate
Just a-
article.
We want
Not
to
an
separate
assignment.
them, yes.
So, okay, I guess we'll just have to talk about it
We'll get
This
it.
way it won't be like a lateral transfer instead.
with the pay.
Yeah, because that's what it is now, it's a lateral transfer. So we don't want to make it that, so you want to make it its own individual
Position.
position.
I feel like we're
yes.
trying to
We're on the
guess
same
what you're
page.
offering.
Oh, you wanna
So what are
get-
you, what are you offering
Well,
for sergeant
we
pay?
can, we'll get to it real soon, and I think, I think there's enough interest on both sides here that this isn't our request or your request, I think it's a mutual request all along to make sergeant its own position, so, I don't think there's going to be any, pushback on actually doing that, just how we do it is still up in the air, right? So on the next, this is where this would include extra, on 20.4, this would include extra duty assignments. That was the piece that was in the other section. So we're really not in agreement here.
Yeah, we're not.
Right.
I just feel like I don't even know if that's legal I have to look into the FLSA more. I know Jean's making a face right now, but I need to research it because I've asked around and I just can't find any other place that does that. You're calling it a non-contract day. I mean, basically to not pay them overtime, it just doesn't seem.
Well, no, I mean, this has been language in here for a long
I know it
long
has. I
time.
just don't
Yeah.
know if it's in compliance with the law is my concern. So that's just why I proposed the language.
So a non-contract day wouldn't be overtime because
But they're doing the same exact things.
but it's not,
job.
it's not a work day, so they probably wouldn't hit the 40 hours, right?
Right, but it's still weekdays usually, right?
I don't know.
Non-contract days were all week.
Yeah, so.
Non-contract days were all weekdays.
There's not much on this, honestly, so I'm gonna research this more
Okay,
and,
all right, okay.
yeah.
I said, you're right, there's no case law.
Use your mic.
It just seems strange to me,
Very.
because I know you can manipulate the work week to avoid overtime, but it's kind of like you were doing the same exact job, you're just calling it a non-contract day on the calendar to not pay the overtime rate. So I'm just worried that violates the FLSA. That's my thinking, so I'm thinking out loud here.
Okay,
I
gotcha.
know it's been done like this since forever, but if it violates the FLSA, then,
Right, I don't believe that it does, but, if you want to look into it and get back to us on that, then we can, or open a further discussion, so. For 20.5, we are still at 5% there, or the tiered model that we had proposed last session.
that's the same as what you proposed last time?
Yep,
Okay.
that's just our position. I know it's not what you want, and by all means, I'd love to be able to, hit the numbers that everybody wants, but that's what we have,
Yeah.
that's our proposal.
I just kind of feel like it's worse than the first proposal, just because based on the numbers that you gave me at the last meeting, I'd feel like some of the members, like, they would get 5% based on the district's first proposal, but now they're only getting 4.5, because a lot of them fall in the
Oh, yeah.
0 to 2.
Well, the tiering, well, it could be either one. It could be, we're still, the 5% across the board is still on the table too. But the tiering of it is, I agree with you, some people get less than 5% on that, but some people get, 6.5%.
It's just hard for me to,
It's just another option.
I know, but I just don't see how you offer the teachers what they got, and then for your sworn unit, which is much smaller, then you offer them this. That's,
Well, the teachers, I mean, when we're talking about them, I mean, they have, they're a larger unit. They've had, their increases have been significantly less.
I don't agree with that. They get the referendum supplements.
They get the referendum,
Which this
yeah.
time around last year was 87 million.
But if you break that down, so they got between, what, 8 or 7 to 8% raise, correct?
7%.
7 to 8% on some of them. And then you had.
It was tiered, some got less.
Okay, so then you have the referendum money. If you did that, that's probably, most of them are getting at least 10% based on the referendum money, no matter even where they stand in pay.
Well, not in their raise, the
No,
referendum
but it's
is
still going towards
existing.
their salary, though. And it's pensionable.
pensionable.
And then you add on the 3% on top of that. So now you're talking 18% plus 3%, 21%. So we're being nice, we're only asking for 10. So, I mean,
I understand.
You know,
I get it.
and I get it, and so we've talked about this in the past in regards to, well, you're not teachers, you're not police, we want to give everybody the same amount. But and then you said last year, well, we're giving you a little bit more, but it still didn't equal what the teachers received. So we can
In the-
twist it any way we wanna, but they still received at least an 18%.
Sure, so keep in mind, though, there's also things that are, the starting salary, let's just say that. Our proposed starting salary here is 55 for a 10-month, so pretty much the same as a teacher.
Correct.
We're talking 55, where a teacher is 51.5, right? So they start lower, and it takes a long time for them to build up, where in PBA, you have, after, 2 years, you get a 3%, or is it 4%? They're different.
Well, where do we get a 3% or 4%?
For the,
Career ladder?
Yes.
No, as you have to qualify for that, so that's just, not everybody gets that.
but it's still 4%. I'm just saying, there's very different contracts, so I get it.
And I get it too, and there's different positions too, and different jobs too. So
There are.
I just think if we understand whether you're giving a referendum, they're making it up, but they're making up the difference in a referendum money. It's 10% almost. We can look at that. That's almost a 10% bonus every year they get that. And we're not looking to be on that plane. We know that that's where they're going to make up their additional monies over us. All we're trying to do is get on the same page.
Can I just please clarify that it is not a 10% increase each year?
He's saying $10,000
No, I'm
compared to
saying
their
10%.
salaries. It
I'm
would
saying
be a
10% because
percentage-wise
I'm averaging it out.
I know,
If-
but it's only, they get it once and they don't get another $10,000 every year. So it's one time they receive the $10,000 or 1,000, 5,000, or 10,000.
Correct.
They just keep that same amount. They don't get more each year. So it's not, they
But
do
they do
not
get it. So
it
did they
10%.
get a rate, did they get the referendum money last year?
It's the same amount they received the year before.
Okay, so
But
it's still added onto their salaries though.
But it's not an increase. You're saying that they received a 10% increase this year, and it's not, because they received the same thing last year, and the same thing the year before that. So it's not another increase. It's not a 10% increase this year.
We're only
No,
asking
we
for
know
1
that
year.
it's a lump sum supplement.
No,
It's a very
it's-
high number compared to their
So
salaries.
if you get $5,000 this year, correct? I make $50,000. I get $5,000. We're just using the numbers. I know it may be a little bit different. So I'm making $55,000, correct?
Like you received a 7% increase last year from the referendum, you're going to continue to receive that 7% increase this year. It's not another 7% increase on top of it. So
No, I understand that.
The officers
So
receive
it's another
7%.
$5,000 a year. It's not compounded, exactly. So I understand that. So it's still, okay, so it's still on $50,000, you're still getting $5,000. $55,000, you're getting 9%. Okay, so it's not going to be, but you're still, your salary's going up, your pensionable rate's going up.
It's staying at this, you're only getting the 10,000. It's the same amount each year, just like the 7% increase you received last year. The benefit that the officers are receiving is you received 7% increase out of the referendum last year. So your raise this year is going to then be.
Based on the 7% increase.
Right, which is, the teachers are just receiving 1,000, 5,000, or 10,000. It's the same amount. It does not get increased by the raise at all.
So
Okay,
over
so-
time, it's going to be significantly more. It's very beneficial to have it added to your base wage.
They're getting 7.5 plus a 3% bonus on top of the referendum if they're highly effective.
Just like officers would get 5% plus the same 3% bonus as well. So officers are eligible for the same 3%
That's not the same.
bonus.
So if we were to say, hey, instead, we'll just take $10,000 then across the board, and it won't go into next year's, every year we get the referendum money. I mean,
I know,
Yeah.
listen, I know, we've talked about this before, and it's just not the way we're structured, and we're not just able to make that up. We're not just able to all of a sudden add on to say, oh, here we go, we're just gonna give the same supplement to all the officers. It's just,
and we understand that too. That's why we're asking for, what we're asking for. We understand it's not gonna be, perfect world, but if you really look at it, they're still getting that raise every year, even though it's not compounded, the second part of it, they're still getting that additional raise.
you're getting a supplement.
Correct.
I understand, I think that's where
And,
we're
and,
off.
and when we're sitting here saying, so, even if we're looking, we're not looking for even close to that. We're looking for 10%,
I understand.
I think
do.
it's gonna take a change of thinking maybe from the top, so I do have a concern that there's no one really here who's able to make a decision. So, I mean, that's where we are.
Well, the board makes our decisions.
I know.
on that, and-
So,
and
but you
we-
do have
we
to
do
come
go
with some
to the
kind of
board.
authority to the meeting. So I
We-
get
we-
that it's a
but-
lot of
but-
restructuring and you'll have to work with the budget, but you have a police department and it's compared to other local police departments, and this is the same argument that we've been having over and over and over, and it's very frustrating from this side. I thought you were gonna come in better, honestly, this time around to try to get them up there. And based on the numbers last time, I think you're still kind of around where you were with the, sworn officers and sergeants that you were, so.
We've made some movement. I understand it's not what you want, but that's our offer.
Okay.
That's what our offer is to, well, I'd love to be able to say, oh, yeah, we'll do it. We'll come here and shake hands and walk out 5 minutes later. That'd be great. It's just, that's not possible. It's not where we're at.
It's just hard for the PBA to wrap its head around. This is the teachers. These are the teachers who get those supplements, and it's on top of 7.5% plus a 3% bonus, and that's for thousands and thousands and thousands of teachers. And we're here for a unit of 227, I think, give or take. So, I don't know. Maybe
Understand.
we've reached where we can reach on this.
And this, you have to, I think on part, you have to see this as an investment. I mean, we're only about 250 officers, or low 200s, without the command staff, and to compared to the CTA, which is 12,700, and what is it, 800 of them don't get the supplement?
That's
It's about 800, so, I mean, we're noise compared to the CTA. And as an investment, and thinking in the long term, if we get rid of these contracts that we're contracting out other departments, this will save the school district money down the road. This will attract more officers locally, and this will protect the students more too in the end, because instead of having an officer du jour or deputy du jour working in the school that day, you have officers that understand every nook and cranny of that school, understands how the principal thinks, how the admin staff thinks, how the kids think. This is an investment in the children. This is an investment in the long-term dollar that you can save in the end also, in the spirit of Law Enforcement Appreciation Day, which I'd like to thank the membership at home who's watching this. Thank you for your service.
I understand your position, I do. That just doesn't change our offer, though.
So what is the sergeant offer? Because last time it was 5%, and that would result in a
Right,
decrease.
so we wanted to make sure, I could skip ahead to that, I think. Let's see. Ultimately, so we want to make sure that, the existing sergeants don't transfer over to this and lose money, 'cause they're at $5,000 right now. So it would be, because the going forward, it will be 5% or minimum of the grade, right, when you transfer into that. On this, they would get their base wage increase, whatever we agree to, through negotiations, and then they'll get their $5,000 supplement moved into their base wage as well. So it won't be a loss of money.
Is this written somewhere? I'm just looking.
It's not. It's something that I think we have a lot to talk about with this, because there's also other pieces in the process that we're going through. So that's what we discussed last time, but that's how we would handle those existing sergeants, if that makes sense.
No. Can you go over it one more
No
time?
current sergeant will lose money.
Right.
Okay, but are they, so can you explain that? Are they getting some increase? What is it?
So they're gonna get 5,000 into they'll get a 5%, which goes first?
Do the increase, just due to their base salary, whatever increases, I'm sorry. So whatever base increase is negotiated, that'd go to their base salary, right? So you increase that. And then their existing $5,000 sergeant supplement, we would add that to the base wage. That'll be the new wage going forward. That way, no current sergeants are losing any money, right?
Okay. All right. Okay. And then let's just keep going, because I don't like that. So let's just keep going. We're going to caucus, I'm sure.
Okay. We're still proposing the bonus, the one-time bonus of 1,500, 3%. On the 20.6, I think we're in agreement there based on the TA you sent over.
That's just status quo.
Correct. Well, it was adding based, right?
Just the
20.6A?
wording.
Yeah.
The same process and everything, you're just changing the wording.
Correct. On 20.9, the West Area Supplement, we're status quo.
That's just the same process, they're just changing the wording. I'm sorry, go ahead.
It was the West Area Supplement, we're just status quo, we really just have a typo, so we haven't changed on that. On 20.10, the promotion, the qualifications for sergeant, ours are there. I think we have the same stuff, really, the same language, just some of it's in different places. So, and because this is not assignment anymore, we really don't agree with putting this into the collective bargaining agreement. We don't think that's where it belongs. The officer's job description's not in the collective bargaining agreement. We don't put anybody's job descriptions in the collective bargaining agreements.
I will not be agreeing to take that out of the contract, so, and if you look at maybe like 30 contracts we have on our website, this isn't anything out of the ordinary. With the history here, I'm surprised that you guys are even proposing this, honestly. So I'm not gonna be accepting taking that out of the contract. So for discussion purposes only, I guess that just means you still just wanna put up the job description and you're proposing to just remove all this, okay. Okay, so.
I'm not sure what you mean by the history here.
The history here with the sergeants.
Oh, on the
Yes, the
ULP.
promotion process, yes.
Understood.
If it would make it easier, we can just add the officer's job and description too.
I mean, it's
It's not a job description, though. I just think it's industry standard. When you have a promotional process, you put the qualifications and the procedures there in the article. So it's really just, it's just commonplace. I don't understand the strong desire to take it out.
we could talk about that. I don't know, we just normally don't put job descriptions in our bargaining.
But that's, it's not just a job description, though. It's a promotional process.
But I think that's one of the things that on all of these issues that we're going through, just because we didn't do it in the past, doesn't mean it was the right way to do it. So I think that that's our mindset that we got to get rid of, and it's not just you, it's everybody in the industry, in this industry here, when we're doing these things. These contracts are 50 years old. We're cleaning them up, is basically what we're doing right now.
Right.
And I think
and I'm the-
just because we don't do it for the teachers, we do it for bus drivers, again, we're a different entity than everybody else, okay? And it's kind of, for us, it's important for those things to be in there. And unfortunately, if we had the sergeant stuff in there before, we wouldn't have gone through what we did
It wasn't
previously.
It wasn't.
Yeah, and it was in there and it still is, but at least we had something in writing.
Okay. We'll talk, I'll talk with the team about that.
And then I'll go through here. Were there any changes? I did not change mine. So are there any differences here?
There's some differences in where some things are, and
It's R21. It's our new Article 21.
just where some of our language is, it matches up. One thing that was different, and we can maybe talk about this now, is in the point system, for every 2 years of service.
Yeah, that's the only thing we didn't agree to on your
Right.
bullet points.
Right.
It looks the same. Oh, I'm looking at your, you copied mine on the top. Let me see. Yeah. That's like, that was our main concern. I think we accepted all of your other proposals, so,
The seniority piece?
yeah.
Chief, you want to talk about that? This is 2010, the promotion one, well, what it is ours says for every 2 years of service with the school district, the candidate will receive .25, up to a maximum of 5 points. PBA's proposal is 1 quarter point for each completed year. So ours is 2 years, theirs is 1 for a quarter point. Well, they're both quarter points, it's just, was it
Starting at
1 year
one.
or 2 year?
At one. Because you get credit for it from the get-go.
Okay, so we're good on
On
that.
the per one?
Yep.
Okay. Is that the only difference?
Well, there were some differences in, I think you have salary in there. So we're obviously
I just
apart.
went on like the criteria and process.
I don't believe so,
Okay, I'll look through it.
yeah.
This one. Is this portion of it new where it's can't pass over more than 4 occasions? I don't recall that.
You want me to talk on that? You had like you could skip 10% on the list, which was confusing. 10% at the beginning of the list, the middle of the list, the end of the list. So it's kind of like your rule of 5.
Yeah, so the rule, this is the rule of 5, but, and I get that, but how about when we go down to, you can't be passed over on more than 4 occasions? Is that new? Because I don't recall that portion.
No, because if you were 5th on the list, by the next time,
Okay,
that's how your rule
I
of
got
5
you.
would work.
Okay, I'm just gonna have to take some time to read through all that. But it sounds like if you guys accept it being in the contract, that we could maybe close this one, but,
Okay, we could talk about that too if we're ready to caucus. We'll discuss it as a team.
okay.
Okay? What room? You have A and B?
Can we also, before we break, we got to just figure out, because I know previously, we had talked about the annual leave not counting against your work schedule also.
The attendance
The attendance,
incentive?
yeah, and it's still an issue with payroll, so that's another issue with payroll.
Okay, we can look into that.
What are you saying with the attendance?
Yeah,
So somebody used annual leave and.
and they get,
lost
yes,
out.
Oh, there you go.
yes.
It would be super helpful with.
I'll just handle that
you could
after
Send a
this.
name, yeah, so that we can,
You could tell me after, I don't.
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
Doesn't have to be on camera, but after to send the name and we could look into.
I just, because we need to, that's got to be probably put out too, that it's, I didn't see it in here either, though, so we need to put it in writing, though, too.
It is in the
It is,
something we
Yeah, it's in
TA'd
the
already.
12 month.
That's what I
It's in the
thought, yeah.
12
Oh, it is in a 12-month,
It's in
okay, so it just needs
Yeah.
to be corrected somewhere else then.
It's just, they made an error.
Thank you.
Okay. So we have reserved A and B for you, which is next two rooms.
Okay. And then I see you proposed a joint study committee for the continued service incentive. But I
Yes.
just wanted to ask while we're here about the overtime, were you guys still working on that? Or
Telestaff is supposed to help us with that, so that
Okay.
we have it automatically within that system. But as of right now, we're trying to troubleshoot it as we go.
Okay,
But to have the wheel, we still don't have agreement on when you reset the wheel. So right now, we go by seniority, and we're trying to offer it, and based on how the contract has it, per section, allow to open up the jobs to the people who live or work in that area.
so
Priority,
what did they
any
get, like an alert or like an email or
they do, everything's through email.
emails? Okay, that's all.
It's working right now. It's being, yes, so.
Okay.
Just a
Okay.
couple of tweaks, but we can do that.
Okay,
1,000 at the base, and then whatever agreed upon raise would then be, times that. So they get the 5,000 of their base, then their raise, they get their raise.
is that for
Whatever we
everyone? You're proposing
all
for
sergeants.
everyone?
Going forward, it's a 5% for the promotion or the minimum of the grade, whichever is higher. The qualifications, we talked about that. The chief and I are going to go over them one more time, and we'll send over the proposal, but we don't have an issue adding them to the CBA.
Okay,
We'll remove the ERP language because we really don't, it doesn't need to be in there. And I don't know where you're at, if you have anything on the 14.1, but as soon as possible, within a year is something that we're fine with. I mean, there's no reason we would want to hold back on that, but.
okay, I'll just we talked about a lot, and I think we've gone, pretty much, unless you guys say something new, I think this is where we are. So Article 14, I'm fine, I just said, 14.1, pay all sums as soon as possible after the triggering event, but in no case longer than a year, so.
Okay, that's where we were.
Okay, and then we are keeping our 14.4. I don't think the district's ever had to pay out funeral expenses before. Hopefully, this statute or article has never been applied here, but we are sticking with that because the statute does provide for funeral expenses and venue expenses for certain situations, but I just want to make sure that applies across the board if any of our members were killed in the line of duty. So we're keeping our 14.4. 16.2, that's fine. 16.5, I did reword it a little bit, so I'll just email that to you. But basically, the concept's the same. I just want to make it even more clear so that we don't have the same problem going forward with them not getting any money, just because the receipts are different amounts. So I think hopefully we should be good with 16. because we're in an agreement with 16.6. So Article 17, I do not think that we're going to reach an agreement on, because we're sticking with the carryover. We're status quo with the amount. It's just the carryover. That's the main issue. I can rework that where the payout upon promotion or leaving is a different section, but again, that was the main difference there. So that's Article 17, and I do have that concern, and I just don't know why they wouldn't be paid at least at their overtime rate for those extra duties, so I'm leaving that too. So Article 17 is going to be open. Article 20, so we talked a lot about this during caucus, so we're going to kind of offer, and I think this is as far as we can go, but this is our, like, an either-or situation, I guess, kind of like your offer. So we're sticking with the 10%, or we will do 7.5% plus a 3% bonus, just like the teachers. And we will also ask for longevity, and I'll write this up for you, but it would be a system where at 5 years you get 2.5%, and then every year after you would get 0.5% up to 20 years, so basically up to 10%. So 5 years, 2.5%, and then every year thereafter, 0.5%, so up to 20 years, which is 10%. And I'll write that up for you, because that's just something that we came to today. So it's our current offer, 10%, or 7.5 plus the 3% bonus, like the teachers, and the longevity. We are going to keep the increase to the West supplement, but we'll get rid of the complexity and insurance asks. So I'll write up that, but I think that's basically as far as we can go, and unless hearing something new. And then I'm keeping the supplements the same, but I'll send you a new Article 20 reflecting that. And then 20.6, I'm gonna check mine. I think that it was just the language change, so that should be fine. But again, Article 20 is still open, so. And then Sergeant, we'll talk about that more next time, it sounds like. Because I'm gonna have to go through all this, and it sounds like you're working on that anyway. And then, let's see. 27.1, I guess you guys are just proposing that one change, so that should be fine, and the eval form will stay the same, I assume. So I'm sure we can TA 27 now.
Okay.
So that's where we are.
And did you see the Appendix D, the MOU, that was just to remove it? I don't think it's just an expired MOU.
Oh, that was just for the one time to match
Yeah.
the governor's payout, right? Okay. That shouldn't be a problem.
Okay,
Okay,
all right.
I'll just follow up with email.
Okay, that sounds good, and I think we have our session scheduled for next week, right?
Yeah, and then detectives, you guys were offering 5 just to raise it by the 1,000.
Yes, as long as we can figure out the sergeant piece of it so that they're not the same rate of, we just didn't want them to be the same rate of pay.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.